Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Fired up here for our fourth hour. If you missed any of this important show this Monday morning, please download the podcast so you can get up to speed. Coming up in 30 minutes, we're going to speak with the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Michael WHATLEY, about, well, the disintegration of the DNC after the reports last week. They're in big trouble over there. We'll get into that coming up in a bit. It's Larry O'Connor with Look at There. It's Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
And joining us right now, longtime listeners of this program will recognize Caroline Glick. She's often joined us for her observations on U.S.-Israeli relations, and she's now actually the international affairs advisor to the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Here I am, still a radio host, and you're up there, advising the Prime Minister. Caroline Glick, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me back on your program in my new hat.
How are things in Israel after the successful airstrikes coordinated by the U.S. military?
Well, we're very elated by the results of the Operation Rising Lion and the U.S. participation in it for the destruction of those three very key nuclear sites in Iran. So we're very elated by that, but we're still, very careful with our what do you say? Just very focused on the mission. We still haven't accomplished it completely, but we're very relieved. Particularly in the aftermath of the U.S. assault on Fordo and Isfahan. These were very, very hard targets to reach, and so people can sleep now. And we're also very, very gratified by the incredible partnership between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu and the extraordinary leadership, the epic leadership, really, that they've been exercising in support of this mission and protecting Israel and protecting global security from this menace.
Since Saturday night, have there been any other missile launches from Iran that have penetrated into Israeli territory?
Yes, there have been. In Tel Aviv, in the Tel Aviv area, in the Ashdod area today. Absolutely. We continue to absorb missiles, but, there are fewer coming in, fewer being shot out because we destroyed a lot of their launchers as well as their industrial capacity and the missiles themselves. We've destroyed a lot of their launchers so that it's more difficult for them to move around the missiles and launch them undetected and to lose them all. So that's the second half of the mission. The first part is to destroy Iran's nuclear installations. It's largely done, and now we're going after the missiles and the missile launchers and their industrial capacity. We're continuing to do that.
Caroline, I'm wondering if you can speak to this sort of situation I'm seeing on X a lot of people wondering if there are sleeper cells in the United States, also in Israel and all over the world, and if Iran will retaliate by sort of asking these sleeper cells to activate. What's the intelligence on them? Obviously, can't say everything here, but what are your thoughts on that at least?
I mean, I've been following the issue from outside as a journalist for 25 years before I joined Prime Minister Netanyahu earlier this year, and part of that has been the terror cells that the Iranians have placed all over the world, in Europe and Latin America and in the United States itself. And we saw them in action. They tried to kill President Trump. They tried to kill the former Secretary of State, former National Security Advisor, Iran envoy. They tried to kill and kidnap dissidents from the regime in Brooklyn. They tried to blow up a restaurant in Georgetown. So, the Iranians and their terror cells are very, very active and have been for years in the United States. And I think it's important to point that out because federal law enforcement has been able to block those attacks from taking place. And under the capable hands of the Trump administration, I think that the U.S. leadership is being very vigilant on this. But I think that the U.S. itself put out an advisory for Americans worldwide that you have to be vigilant in protecting yourself against terrorism. So I think it's always important to keep your eyes open and see if there are anything that looks suspicious. Certainly we've been doing this in Israel for decades and decades. But all in all, the idea that this is America's fault or Israel's fault is I think unfortunately, it's sort of an undercurrent in these claims. And I think what it really points to is just how evil this regime is, how satanic this regime that has been calling America the great Satan and Israel the little Satan for the past 46 years really is, and how dangerous it is, and how important and critical it was for global security, for America, for Israel, for the Middle East, for Europe, to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, given the way that it acts without them.
We're speaking with Caroline Glick. She's the International Affairs Advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. Caroline, if you can, looking sort of forward, I think that a lot of people, you've seen the president mention over the weekend on Truth Social, mentioning regime change, make Iran great again. From the perspective of Israel, what does that look like exactly? If you can even imagine such a time where this regime falls and something replaces it, that can you even hope that they have some kind of normalized relations? Could we see an Abraham Accord type agreement with a new regime in Iran?
The Cyrus Accords, absolutely. King Cyrus, he liberated the Jews from exile 2,500 years ago, and the Jewish people and the Iranian people were good friends and allies before the Islamic Revolution. And we still have very deep ties, cultural ties, civilizational ties with the Iranian people. I think what it would look like is what we've seen repeatedly since 1979 is you've seen hundreds of thousands, millions of Iranians taking to the streets and trying to overthrow the regime, but they never received international support, and the regime was always ended up being stronger. They could oppress and murder too many of the people trying to fight for their freedom to make it succeed. And I think that what President Trump was signaling was the United States would not turn its back on the Iranian people if they stand up now when the regime is at its weakest point ever. The Iranian people hate the regime. Repeated surveys of domestic political positions in Iran show upwards of 80% of Iranians seek the overthrow of the regime. So if they have a weak regime and they're relatively stronger, then the calculation changes. It's not about getting foreign boots on the ground, not Israeli, not American, not anybody. It's letting the Iranians stand up for themselves, as they've been trying to do really since the early 80s.
Caroline Glick, we've just moments ago gotten a security alert for United States personnel at the embassy in Qatar, ordering all Americans to shelter in place. Based on what they're describing as rising tensions with Iran. Is Qatar, are they a reliable partner in peace here? The U.S. has a giant military base there. They had been instrumental during the war in Iraq, but what is the Israel government's perspective on Qatar at this point?
Well, we have very substantive problems with Qatar. They control Al Jazeera. And Al Jazeera journalists are just doubling as Hamas terror commanders, not just line terrorists, but actually commanding different aspects of Hamas's terror army and posing as journalists at the same time. So a lot of the reports you've seen of journalists killed in the war in Gaza have been lies. They've been working for Al Jazeera while attacking Israel militarily from Hamas's army. So it's all one of a piece. And Qatar, of course, is a state sponsor of Hamas. They're a very close ally of Iran. So, yeah, and on the other hand, you have all of these U.S. university campuses in University City in Doha, and you have the big air base in Qatar that the U.S. military uses. So it's a mixed bag, which is why there's always a question of whether they're the pyromaniac and then the fireman, or whether they play a better role or a lesser role. And so it's a problem with Qatar. They're a problematic country for Israel.
In the meantime, I'm thinking the people of Israel feel a little bit safer today than they did Saturday afternoon.
So much safer. So much safer. I mean, we've been carrying the specter of the weight of the specter of a nuclear holocaust coming from Iran on our heads for decades, and it's been taken away. And the extraordinary leadership of President Trump and courage of Prime Minister Netanyahu in taking these kinds of incredible decisions that are so hard and demand so much courage. And it's our military and intelligence agencies in Israel that enabled Prime Minister Netanyahu to do it, because they prepared the plans, and they have the people on the ground in our Air Force and on the ground in Iran and beyond that give the confidence to our policymakers that they can make historic decisions and know that it is a calculated risk. It's not a gamble.
Caroline Glick, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Always great to talk with you.
Thank you. God bless you guys. Thank you. Be safe.
Back at you.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Update, it's now 83 degrees. That literally changed from 80 to 83 in just 3 minutes. So it is getting hotter and hotter and hotter today. Stay safe out there. You got big activities outside planned today?
I have to go to my son's baseball game today.
Oh.
I'm gonna...
That's rough. They don't play indoor baseball in high school,
I need
do
to
they?
get one of those battery-operated fans. I think that's what I'll do.
More than that, you need like a swamp cooler to sit on.
Or like seven of them.
I'm beginning. This week is first week of training for the Marine Corps Marathon. I'm finally doing it. I'm running the marathon.
Oh, good for you.
The full marathon. I've never run a full marathon. I'm doing this year's Marine Corps Marathon. Today is the first training run. I got to run 3 miles today.
Well, do it right when you get off the show.
I might have to do it at 10 o'clock tonight, honestly. Just wake up. I'll wake up in the middle of the night. Actually, I should do it before the show tomorrow morning at 2 a.m.
This is one of those days where you just wait for it to cool off, and you go outside at like 10 o'clock, and you're like, why isn't it not cool? It's just not cool. It never cools off.
No, there will be no cooling off. As I said, 83 degrees at Reagan National as of this moment at 8:20 this morning. And yesterday, before church, I'm always the first one to wake up on the weekends in the house, right?
Really?
Well, of course.
Well, of course.
I'm just not. I sleep until 7, and that's still earlier than everyone else.
See, I do it 3 days a week. I can adjust.
Right. I got 3.5 hours extra sleep, and I'm still awake before everyone. So I'm listening to Father Mike do his homily before I go to church, and I pour myself a cup of coffee, go outside. It's still, again, it's 7 in the morning. Sun is up, yes, because it's summertime, and in fact, it's like summer solstice time, right? So, but still, it's low in the sky. Mm-hmm. I'm in the shade, sitting on our little front patio area with a cup of coffee. 10 minutes later, Julie, I was drenched.
Oh, I know. This is why every year we vacation in Maine. If I could have vacation in Alaska, I would, honestly.
So I am heading up to I have personal and professional business in Rhode Island.
Nice.
Later this week.
It's cooler there.
One of our sponsor midshipmen, who's now a lieutenant in the Marines, just got engaged to one of our other sponsors. Well, I don't want to say they met at our house because that would be weird. But
no one knows.
Their courtship occurred at our home, I guess. So they just got engaged yesterday. I've spoken about him before. Adrian Johnson, who was he won back-to-back national championships in boxing for the Navy boxing team. He's now a Marine officer. He's now engaged to his longtime sweetheart from the Naval Academy.
They're wonderful.
And they're up in Rhode Island. So we're going to go up on personal business to celebrate with them, and that's going to be very exciting.
Lovely.
And I cannot wait to get up there.
You might actually be able, you could probably put a little sweater on at night. It's so lovely at night.
I don't know about that. I've never been to Rhode Island.
When we go to Maine, I wear sweaters at night, and I am in a bathing suit during the day, and I love that. I love that.
Short of getting out of town, the best thing for you can do right now, the District of Columbia has actually opened cooling centers and low barrier shelters and day centers for people who are homeless. Because it's going to be horrific out there. Imagine not having a home and living in a tent. Maybe the district should do something about that. City pools and splash pads are going to be open. You can find a map of cooling centers on the district website. It's recommended that people stay indoors as much as possible. If you have to be outside, stay hydrated. Wear lightweight and loose clothing. You need the government to tell you these things. Wear sunscreen. Avoid strenuous activities. 3 miles, that's not strenuous. You'll be fine.
Did your father have air conditioning growing up? My mother didn't.
Nope.
I mean, did your parent? My mom
Nope.
did not. No.
Nope.
And I remember her talking to us about how you just prayed for sleep because it just never cooled off.
You figured
She didn't
it
even
out.
have a fan.
Yeah, you figure it out. I had the air conditioning cranked all night and a ceiling fan. I still prefer warm weather to cold weather, though.
I do.
No. I'm going to run my 3 miles today for my training, and it'll be 100 degrees, and it'll be humid, and I would still prefer running in that than running in 48-degree weather.
Have you thought about maybe going to a gym and running on a treadmill?
No. It's
Why?
road racing. It's a completely different thing. It doesn't count.
Well, for early training, you could wait till the heat. I mean, next week's not going to be as hot, I'm sure.
It's 8:23.
Making sense of your world.
There are a lot of things that really tick me off.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL. Making sense of the news.
Coming up, we'll talk to RNC Chair Michael Whatley. He's got a lot to say about Iran and MAGA and Trump's latest social media post, and we might even ask him about some races. Keep it here. It's 8:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington. A Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
8:37, O'Connor and Company on this 23rd day of June. Thanks for joining us. Coming up 30 minutes, we hand it over to Chris Plant. But in the meantime, much to discuss here on O'Connor and Company with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
It's the chairman of the RNC, Michael Whatley, and he's got to have a spring in his step here, considering the reports about the DNC. I mean, I'll be honest, Chairman Whatley, I know you're doing a good job, but it doesn't hurt when your opponents are disintegrating before your very eyes.
No, but at the end of the day, they'll have enough money to get through this campaign because the Democrats always have a ton of money, and they're sorting out what happened with, the last election cycle. The thing that amazes me is that right now they absolutely believe that they had the right agenda in 2024, and they have refused to learn any lessons from the last election cycle and are doubling down on that same failed agenda every day. The American people are not buying it, and that's a lot of the reason they're in the shape that they are.
Yeah, it does seem to be a constant refrain that, they had the right candidate, they had the right message, they just had a short time frame and they're having trouble getting their message out. But it seems like on the issues, they're upside down compared to where the American people are and where the Republicans are.
On every single issue, whether it is deporting violent, criminal, illegal aliens, extending the Trump tax cuts, keeping boys out of girls' sports and men out of women's locker rooms, these are 80-20 issues, and the Democrats are on the wrong side of every single one of them.
Michael, it also appears now that they're going to pursue impeachment because of this incredibly successful strike against Iran, which polling also shows people are pretty supportive of not having a nuclearized Iran. This is going to sink them even more, correct?
Yeah, look, the Democrat playbook is pretty simple. We saw it coming out of the 2018 election cycles, investigations, hoaxes, and impeachment. And they've already said that's exactly what they're going to do. We've already had impeachment articles filed in the House by the Democrats this year, basically fill in the offense later. We just want to impeach President Trump. When you look at the attacks on Iran, the president was very, very clear. We're not going to allow Iran to develop and deploy nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
They're not, right? And that is to keep Americans safe, to keep Israel safe, to keep Europe safe, to keep the whole world safe. And ultimately, if the Democrats feel that the world is better with Iran having nuclear weapons, they need to have their heads examined.
Lest we sound like we're using pom-poms here and cheerleading the RNC without any criticism, Chairman Whatley, let's face it, one thing that can help the party and help them with momentum going into next year's midterms is a big victory in Virginia this November. the New York Times, Washington Post, they're already talking about Abigail Spanberger as the de facto governor and potentially a running mate in 2028 for the Democrat candidate. So what is the RNC's commitment to ensure that Abigail Spanberger does not become the governor of Virginia? What are you guys ready to do?
Yeah, we do not want to see a rubber stamp for the Democratic agenda as the governor in Virginia. You know, she has voted for boys in girls sports and men and women's locker rooms. She has voted against the Trump tax cuts getting extended, and she has made sure on every single vote that she is against President Trump reflexively on every one of these 80-20 issues. You know, for us to win in this race, it's going to take three things. Number one, you got to have a great candidate, run a great race. We've got a nominee in Winsome Sears who's absolutely capable of that. You need to get out the vote, and you need to protect the ballot. What the RNC does is we help get out the vote, and we are going to run the election integrity program as we have done in each of the last three elections in Virginia. You know, Glenn Youngkin showed us the way. Glenn Youngkin showed how to win in Virginia as a Republican, which is really, truly understand the issues that the voters care about and put solutions on the table and get away from pure partisan voting, which is what we saw, you know, with Abigail Spanberger over the last several years.
Chairman Whatley, we are on a tight schedule today because of the news events of the weekend, as you can well imagine. We'd love to have you back soon to talk more about the upcoming Virginia race and other issues facing the Republican Party. Thank you so much for today, though.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Have a great week.
You bet. That's Chairman of the RNC, Michael Whatley. It's now 8:42.
WMAL, making sense of world events, because those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
And as we move from the chairman of the Republican National Committee, we now welcome the chairman of the Fairfax County Republican Committee, Katie GORKA. Ms. GORKA, thanks for joining us.
Larry and Julie, Larry, thank you so much for asking Michael Whatley that question about what they're going to do to help Virginia.
I thought you'd like that.
Super important. Yes, I loved it. Yeah.
Well, and of course, there's an open congressional seat now in Fairfax County, and it's time for a quick impromptu primary and a special election. So how are things going as far as the party's desire to find their nominee?
Yeah, it is so exciting. I have never seen such a strong slate of candidates. So we actually have 7 candidates. The Democrats have 10. Everybody sees a real opportunity here because for the first time in 15 years, with the passing of Jerry Connolly, we don't have an incumbent to run against. And plus the fact that there is so much momentum for Republicans in Fairfax right now. I have to tell you, especially all the first generation Americans that we have in Fairfax County, they have had it with the Democrat Party and they have been flocking over. So I think this is going to be the race to watch. It's going to be super exciting.
Katie, it's really, I mean, as a Virginian, I'm excited about this too. And it really is hard to nail down what is drawing those Democrats or those persuadable independents over. Is it the schools? Is it the constant tax hikes? Is it the immigration issue and the unwillingness to coordinate with ICE? What are those issues that are really driving this shift?
Yeah, Julie, you just really hit the high lines. I mean, transgenderism continues to be like the number one issue, but it's the safety issue. MS-13 is aggressively recruiting here in Fairfax. They hate that. They hate the fact that they worked hard, these legal immigrants, to get here, and they hate the fact that the illegals are coming in and getting all these handouts and getting preferential treatment. The taxes, all these issues are what's driving them. So this is why we're seeing the numbers why we're seeing them come over to the Republican Party in numbers I've never seen before.
This is going to be a good old-fashioned sort of grassroots community primary here for the Firehouse primary for the Republicans. It's one day only, this Saturday coming up, the 28th, at Fairfax High School. And there's early voting the day before at the Fairfax Government Center. And that's it. This is how you'll determine your nominee?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So people can go to the website. It's 11, so the number's 11 11cdgop.org. People can register to participate in the canvass. But here's what I recommend. Tonight, we are going to have an incredible candidate forum out at the Fairfax County Government Center at 7 p.m. People can come here, the 7 candidates in person. And I heard them yesterday. I was just blown away. And it was such an interesting conversation, how people are proposing to, how would they behave as a congressman? How would they support Trump? All these things. So it's a great opportunity to hear about the candidates. So again, the website with this information, 11cdgop.org.
Yeah, candidates forum tonight. Last night, the forum was moderated by our own Vince Colonnese, and tonight you're stuck with me, Katie Gorka.
Larry, I got to tell you, people are so excited. You got a lot of fans out here, so people are like, Larry O'Connor. So I'm just warning you now. There's going to be a lot of handshaking and selfies. Okay.
Well, that's fine, but I'm not running for anything. I'm there to get out of the way and let the candidates shine, because I want to make sure that the Republicans choose a great candidate who not only can do a great job in Congress, but I'll be honest with you, has a chance of winning. That's kind of the most important part, to tell you the truth. So, Katie, we will see you tonight at the candidates forum. Once again, give them the details on tonight, because honestly, I don't have them.
Yep. 7 p.m., Fairfax County Government Center. And you can find out more details about tonight and about Saturday by going to 11cdgop.org.
There it is. All right. We'll see you tonight, Mrs. Gorka.
See you tonight, Larry. Thanks, y'all.
It's 8:51.